All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the final discussion of To Your Eternity. Well, not quite the final, actually, is it now? But the final discussion, deep dive, I guess, into individual volumes that we're going to be doing. And in a second, you'll know what I'm talking about. But we are discussing volumes 17 and 18 today. And of course, I am joined here by none other than Merphy Napier for our well, this is it. This is as much as we're reading, right, Merphy?
That's it.
Yeah. So we have decided that we are done with To Your Eternity, and we're pretty much finishing out where it is right now. I know that there's another volume coming out very soon, volume 19, I believe. And we are just we're done. So I guess we don't have to get too into that. I mean, I will say I think it's important to acknowledge one thing. We in our last video we had some major problems with a couple tropes that came up, in particularly in volume 15. And I do want to acknowledge and thank the viewers who left comments in regard to that trope. And there were some viewers who explained, I think, did a great job of explaining that the mangaka Yoshitoki Oima was in fact trying to highlight just how awful those tropes are, and was really leaning into them in that sense. And for someone maybe not as familiar with those tropes like myself,
And me.
and that would include you as well, it just came across as, what is this? But in fact, her intentions were different, and that's a topic, right? Authorial intentions.
Hey.
So apparently, the mangaka was trying to be critical of these tropes in some way, shape, or form. And so I thought, okay, this is an important piece of information. I will continue in the series, because I was this close to just saying, okay, no thanks. And I think you probably were too, Murphy.
Oh yeah, I told you if you DNF, I'll happily move on as well.
Okay, so reading those comments really is the reason why I decided to press on with the available volumes. But there were aspects of them that I'm going to highlight that I actually really did like a lot. There were moments in 17 and 18 that I really did enjoy, and brought back that sense of this is a really promising story with some interesting themes. So I'll talk about those. But then there was just a lot of me being like, what is going on? And characters dying and I didn't even realize it. And, and just this chaos, and I having to go back and reread sections and figure out if I could, what was happening. And I just got to the point where I was like, yeah, I think I'm done with this series. But
I think, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I wanted to actually let you make the announcement.
Oh yeah. Sure.
So yeah.
Okay, so on the 15th of December, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Daylight Time, we will be doing our do you know what it is? I think it's daylight.
It's standard now. Yeah.
Is it standard?
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. We will be doing Eastern Time. We will be doing our final discussion on To Your Eternity. This will be a live stream on my manga channel, and it will be with our good friend Alan from the Library of Alexandria. And actually, Philip, shucks, I forgot to mention this before we hit record. The anime, which is what Alan is watching, only covers through the first era. So our chat with Alan will be fun, because
it'll be positive.
It'll be all the best parts of the series.
Yeah. Because I do feel very strongly that if it had ended with Renril, I would have counted myself satisfied and happy to have read this.
Agreed. It may not have been like our new favorite thing, but we would have said that was a story worth reading, right?
Yeah.
And it just kind of, and I think actually that's something that I wanted to mention is Era 1. And I don't remember perfectly, but I think Era 1 had like 12 volumes to it, and Era 2 had something like 7. So I think part of what kind of made it drop off for us was, and I know that the mangaka also became less consistent. She was not doing weekly chapters. She was doing fewer and fewer. So I think that as far as the characters no longer feeling like they were their own characters anymore, and instead they were just kind of bodies that served a role,
Yeah.
and certain themes that seemed really, really rich that were just kind of skirted over, and instead we focused more on the slice of life element of things, or stuff that it looked like we were going somewhere and they didn't go anywhere really,
Yeah.
right? Like all of the problems that we have with this series, I think part of it is that for whatever reason, and I can't speak to what's going on behind the scenes, for whatever reason, Era 2 wasn't given the time to
Mm.
actually flesh things out like Era 1 was.
Yeah. Yeah, I that makes sense. And there were moments even in Era 1 where I was confused and I thought, okay,
Yes.
this is very abrupt storytelling, but there was enough good stuff that I was willing to just sort of forgive that and keep, stay with the series, but then Era 2 came along. So, uh, but there were reminders to me in 17 particularly, but a little bit in 18 of why I liked the series in the first place. So I do want to highlight those and then complain about the chaos.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. So everybody, don't forget Friday the 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern time for the live stream with Alan. And if you don't know Alan, guys, he's a ton of fun.
Oh my goodness.
This is going to be a lot of fun talking
Whatever
about.
he feels at 100 and he doesn't hold back. So
That's right.
it's gonna be a good time, especially because he's been texting me as he's been as he's been watching through the anime. He's
Yeah.
loving it. He's having a
Really?
great time. Yes, yes.
Well,
So
that's
it'll be a good time.
another consistent thing that our viewers have been saying is the anime is better than the
Yes.
manga.
And I didn't watch the whole anime, but I watched something like 5 to 7 episodes, and I very much agree that the anime is better. It's very loyal, but some of the things that the manga is it feels jarring and abrupt. The anime extends a little bit to make it
Okay.
feel more cohesive.
Yeah. Well, then it'll be interesting to get Alan's perspective.
It'll be awesome.
So good. All right. So volume 17. And I just want to highlight a couple things that I did like because I don't want to be Mr. Complainer all the time here. And there really were moments that I felt there were some really beautiful moments that spoke to those themes that I was hoping would be developed more, and then just kind of came back in little glimpses, I guess, in this the modern era thing. But this is a moment when Fushi is returning to the school and finds Tonari in the library and is
Mhm.
sitting down beside her. Page 47 is when this sort of begins, but it's 48 where I see the part where she's telling him something very important here because he spent all this time feeling distraught actually about his friends leaving him, and because he is immortal, he has
Mhm.
this perspective. He doesn't want to be left alone, and he's having a bit of a crisis over this, in here, which is understandable, from his perspective. And he wants to keep bringing them back again and again, his friends, and which you can see could become something of a burden,
Yeah.
for them. And they are willingly taking on this burden at the moment, but he can see that they're having their frustrations, they're having their difficulties, and he's trying to do things like send Gugu back to where he was from, where he's treated nicely instead of bullied all the time. And so he's making efforts to make their lives better in a way that is sacrificial for him because they won't be around him the way he wants. But I love this dialogue with Tonari here. And she's speaking to Fushi. Still, no matter how perfect a paradise you turn this place into, you're not going to get rid of people's pain and doubts because we're human. But you want a world without suffering like the knockers do, huh? And I love that she brings up this parallel with the knockers.
Mhm.
And
Which there
he
have been
says,
many.
yeah, and he said, don't lump me in with them. He's like, don't do that. I'm not like them. I'm just saying that you can live without suffering. Wouldn't that be better? That's Fushi. I'm just saying you can
Mhm.
live without suffering. Wouldn't that be better? And I don't know if you can actually, Fushi, but I only
He's
want to
convinced
make,
he can make a paradise.
yeah, exactly. I only want to make everyone's dreams comes true, but instead, and she interrupts and says, they'll come true without your help. Pain and anxiety always come to those who chase their dreams. your dream is to grant all of ours, right? And that's why you look so pained. Boom. You know, I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was a good scene there. What do you think?
Yes, I very much agree. Especially because at this point, and remind me, okay, so confession, I went on and read volume 19 after I finished 18 because
You did? You did?
because I just we had one more volume and then the era was going to be over and I wanted my answers. So I'm trying to remember exactly what, because I read these late at night. So I'm trying to remember, it's all melding together for me. But in this
Okay.
volume, he like thought he had made a paradise and people were still dying and still, okay, cool. So sorry. So,
You're
so
funny. Okay.
I know, well, no. So he, in his mind, he can just keep do over. He can keep creating and keep making this world into some sort of paradise for him and for his friends. But
Right.
at the same time, he's spending less and less time with them and he's spreading himself so thin and he's noticing that they're not fully happy. And, that we've talked about it in previous chats as well, is the pain, the suffering, the death. That's part of being human. That's part of life. And that's built in. And to Fushi, someone who isn't human, it's much like the knockers. He just wants to remove that side of it. And
Yeah,
she's trying to show him that there is beauty in that side of it too.
that's right. In fact, it is distinctly possible that without the suffering, there couldn't be beauty.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Yes. Or at least we wouldn't recognize it anymore. And I think a lot of pieces
yeah,
of literature have, or probably movies too, have explored that idea that in a utopia, people stop appreciating that they're in a utopia.
yeah, yeah. And he's trying to build that
Yeah.
naively, I guess you could say. But
Hmm.
that's what he wants, and he's coming. His heart is good. He's coming from a good place. But in this volume, he learns about what happened to his friends. So it is confirmed that Marge, for example, took poison and took her own life. And who was
Yep,
it?
you got that right.
Yeah, I was talking to someone recently about the perception of, I guess we're not supposed to say the word, but taking your own life. And Japanese culture is not quite, there's not quite the
Right.
same judgment attached to it.
Mhm.
It is tragic, of course, but it's not seen as like, so in Western, particularly Judeo-Christian tradition, it's seen as like a sin. It's a bad thing to do that. Whereas here, it seems like it's tragic and it's sad, but she's not just taking her own life, but she was aided in it by some of the friends, even, which I thought,
Mhm.
oh my God, really? You're going to help a little girl to, yeah, I mean, maybe she's hundreds of years old technically, but um, that was quite something. And for Fushi, of course, to learn that his friends, that things had come to that for them was very difficult for him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because he wants to keep bringing them back to life and bringing them back to life, and then to learn that,
Yeah.
there was a point where March didn't want to be alive anymore. And, she even at one point tells him, "Bring me back to life. I'll always be here for you. I'll always," and like I think he's starting to see how much they're giving to keep him happy and how much he's taking because he doesn't want to be alone.
Yep. Yep. And even in that scene where he's told by, I think it's Bon who tells him, or no, who is it that tells him? I think it's Bon. Yeah, it's Bon. There's that scene where they've all passed away, but they're all waiting next to him as
Mhm.
he's, growing his roots everywhere. And their souls or whatever are just waiting. And they said, we waited for you for centuries.
Yeah.
And now he's feeling afraid that he's being abandoned. So this is a theme that is put in here that I actually like, that idea of friendship. And we see Fushi continuously trying to do everything on his own. That even happened in the earlier arc.
Hmm.
And it's his friends who come to the rescue, who help him. He never would have made it without them. So
Yeah.
that's kind of beautifully done, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yes, and I think that really emphasizes again that cyclical life and death and beauty in both, that him hanging on to them and forcing them to keep their life means that they're missing something and now they're being spread too thin and now they're unhappy as well and they need to be given the chance to be able to move on.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's recognition of this here. As painful
Yeah.
as it is, it's beautiful at the same time. And there is a moment in this volume in 17 where that really solidifies it, I think, for Fushi. And it's when he sees the baby turtles that he laid. That was lovely. That was really good
That
storytelling.
really was. Yeah, I didn't expect that to come back around.
Yeah, I didn't either. And I loved how it was incorporated here. So you've got the little baby turtles, and of course they're
Mhm.
cute because they're baby
Yes.
turtles. But
And they leave him too.
and then the thing is, he sees life begin to happen to these turtles. So a
Hmm.
crab grabs one to eat it. A bird swoops down to get another, and he's named them. And he says, "Yeah, you can't eat, so and so."
Which is funny because it's named after food.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, stop that. Don't eat shumai. And he's trying to protect his crabs, like he's trying to protect his friends.
Yeah.
And he says, sorry, don't hate me. Don't hate me. And you have these little baby turtles staring up at him. But then guess who comes along and gives him a bite appropriately, on the leg.
Yeah.
And there's something in that, and I think he there's hardly even a word on these pages, but you see all his friends turning up there, and they're trying to
Yeah.
tell him something,
Yeah.
that these turtles have to live, you have to let them go, and he
Yeah.
ends up dumping them back into the ocean where he knows some of them are going to die. And
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was really well done.
Yes, I completely agree. I completely agree. It's a wonderful parallel to him recognizing that he has to let his friends go, that he can't just keep hanging on to them and forcing them into this state of standing still, that that's no life. And he has to let them go and has to let them live. And yeah, I agree. It was a beautiful, beautiful parallel to what was happening among his friends.
Yep. Okay, good. Did you have any positive things that you wanted to highlight? I have one more, but I would make sure we cover anything you might have.
No, I mean, you're covering a lot of the really great spots, so you
Okay.
keep on. Oh, actually, I do want to mention, while we have mentioned that we feel like a lot of the side characters, a lot of the friends have kind of stopped having any sort of characterization.
Yeah.
Um, was his name Mercer? The one who turns into nothing more than a grump, and he's the one that's really I
Oh,
can't.
Messar. Messar. Yeah.
Messar. He
Yeah.
was the one that went and got Bon and made him come home early so that he could talk to Fushi.
Yeah.
And I loved that Fushi really did a lot of back and forth with his friends, like not wanting to ask so much of them, but needing them in order for his life to be worth anything in his eyes.
Yep.
And then when he finally does ask them, "Don't leave me behind," and the way they all kind of look at him or look down, and you can see like this ask is too great. You can't like this is too much for us, but they don't want to have to tell him no. I thought that was really well done.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. Good call. And then in volume 18, I didn't have a lot of 18 that I really liked because it
Mm.
was just mass chaos.
It was a lot of chaos. It was a lot of chaos and it was a lot of um that slice of life kind of drama as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there were two scenes of chaos going on simultaneously. And I liked usually the sort of back and forth of that sort of thing, so they're in the underground thing trying to rescue Mizuha. That's one. But then there's the assault on the school by the fake Fushi. And that's two. And so you have these two dramas unfolding in both places. And
The art was
and
really cool with the fire fushi though.
I mean, that was pretty freaky, and how he was splorching everywhere, and trying
Yeah.
to turn everybody into knockers or whatever, or kill them, I guess, or whatever. But yeah, there were moments. I thought that Yuki had a. Normally, I'm just annoyed by Yuki because he's just way too enthusiastic for me. but
Is
there,
that the boy whose name I've never bothered to learn, the one who's in love with Mizuha?
yes, that's him. Yep, yep, yep. So Yuki Aoki. And he's the vice president of the Occult Research Club. Yes. He has a younger sister that I do like. I think she's cool, but he's usually just kind of annoying. But I do love this one thing that he says. where he's what we trust, what we believe in, and how we'll act. But I believe, oh yeah, this is where he's saying, but I believe if we've all got bodies, we understand what it means to hurt. We can understand each other's pain. We can put ourselves in each other's shoes. So I thought that was a beautiful message too, that is expressed through his character. And he is the one who's constantly trying to reach out, trying
Yeah.
to bring about an understanding between the parties.
Yes. He's
Yeah.
trying to bridge that gap and give everybody second chance and second chance. I mean, even when Mizuha has the water and she's like, it's not poisoned, it's totally safe. And everybody's hesitating and he just chugs it. And
And
yeah,
it actually does have knockers in it, it turns out. Yeah.
yeah. He's very sweet and trusting and he tries so hard to bridge that gap. And it is an interesting, that's another one of those things where it's like it's an interesting idea. Can the knockers and the humans coexist? Can this life work now that the knockers have become so infiltrated that there is no way to really get them out? And that's something that would have been interesting to explore. But again, it's just kind
Yeah.
of there and we move, unfortunately.
Yep. I agree.
It was interesting though, Mizuha, her mom, or rather the knocker version of her mom, has now brought her to the thing that her original mom was trying to keep her away from. So now
Yeah.
she's fully in it. Now her dad is a knocker as well, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah, because he shoots himself.
Yeah.
And he was deemed too weak by the knockers. The actual man was probably not 100% in it. So they thought, all right, time to get rid of him. There was a lot of like characters just, suddenly turning the gun on themselves and bloom. Okay. And that happened repeatedly in here.
Super abrupt. Yeah, there's a lot of very abrupt storytelling here at the very end. Again, I was just making sure I wasn't dipping into volume 19. But yes, there's a lot going on in this ending section, which was, I mean, it was interesting and there was a lot that I would have liked to have just like pause for a second and explore.
Yeah, I agree. So I'll give an example of that, which
Yes,
I
please.
think is almost inexcusable. If unless I'm an idiot, which is possible, but but Toneri dies in the course of somehow or other. It's not even shown though. Like it's I did not understand. I had to go back to this continuously.
When we had the fake tonery.
When there was okay, so fake Toneri shows up and we don't know I mean, it seems pretty evident that she's trying to kill Messar and Hyro and those dudes, and that's just out of nowhere. Like, wait a second, how does this happen? And then later, the Beholder shows up and resurrects her. Okay, so two things about this whole thing that I really find to be poor storytelling. One is that I didn't know that Toneri died, and you would think that with such an important character, that would be on page. Like we would see that, wouldn't we? I don't think you would take away any of the suspense because the other characters don't know that Toneri has died. But it doesn't. It's never shown. It just suddenly she's not there, and then at the end she says, "Oh yeah, I died, but then the Beholder brought me back. Yay!" So the other thing that I don't like about that is the Beholder, which I thought there's so much potential in this character. So much I thought would be cool about this character. And he just shows up. There's a lot of kind of Deus ex machina about this convenience and that sort of thing.
About the way it's done, right?
Yeah, and he just shows up, and the whole time keeps insisting, well, I don't have any, my powers are going away, I can't help you. And then he turns up and does this super powerful thing where he can just make a knocker go boink, and or bring people back to life, and et cetera. So just like, come on.
So that is expanded on a little bit in the next volume. So that's one of those things that kind of seems like, what are you doing? And then you keep reading and then
That's
you get
happened
a
a
little bit
lot
more.
in here.
That's happened a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one I forgive because I read on a little bit more, but I do agree because I cheated.
Yeah.
But I do agree that with Tonari, I think the goal was to reflect the chaos of battle. Like you don't watch every comrade fall. and then all of a sudden, you know, they're fighting and they're doing their thing, and then you turn around and now your comrade is against you. Now your comrade is a puppet, right? So I think it was meant to reflect that chaos, but
Okay.
I will agree with you that it was so chaotic that it became difficult to follow, so the impact was lost.
Yeah, it was for me because I kept getting booted out of the story. I was like, wait, what is going to have to go back? And I would reread
Mhm.
sections and I was like, and that's just not effective storytelling. I don't
Mhm.
think I'm that dumb. You know, I don't think I'm that. I mean, I've read 3 whole mangas before this.
You're
So-
definitely not dumb, Philip. It was yeah, I think that there's a lot in this era too that could have been great, that had a lot of potential, that
oh
could have
yeah,
been really effective, and it just went by too fast. It wasn't not enough was explored, not enough was unpacked.
yeah, and this what you mentioned is so true. Like so often in the series, I've had this complaint, and then in the next volume or two, it's explained.
Yeah.
That's happened many times. I've never seen anything like that, and that seems to be like a is that a calling card of this mangaka or is that a manga thing in general?
I think again, I'm not a master, I'm not a pro at this,
You're
but
my master here.
right. I've got like oh, I don't know enough karate terms to be able to say that. I have a purple belt and I'm already training someone. I don't know
I
anything.
have a white belt. So
um, what I understand, I think this is far more common um, in non-Western storytelling. I think that this show you something and then you're like, what? And then you let the reveals come. I think that's more common for manga. However, I don't think it's done smoothly in this particular manga. Like I
yeah.
think usually when that happens, and I could name other manga where or rather other scenes. Shoot, I can name a scene off the top of my head in One Piece where that happened not that long ago that
Oh,
I was very upset about and I think was not done well. So like it happens. It can't be perfect all the time, but I
okay.
think usually when this sort of storytelling happens, it's like the chaos and the confusion led by an amazing reveal that makes it all you retroactively look at it differently, and I
Huh.
don't necessarily think that it was as effective all the time in this particular story.
Okay. I also felt the ending was kind of just there was a moment I thought, oh, okay, that's cool, where Fushi takes Kahaku's form. Kahaku.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a bit of a surprise. And then he allows her fist to pass through his arm, where the knocker used to live, right?
Right.
And there's that I thought, okay, this is kind of cool. And then the daddy knocker comes and blows her brains out. And it's like, wait, what? And then they're like, oh, well, we're actually going to retreat now. You so we can, wait, no, that's not
It
what.
was just a lot of chaos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think by the end of the volume, I was like, okay, stuff is happening. Fine. Like I just kind of threw my hands up by the end.
Okay, yeah, and then yeah, the beholder comes in and cleans up everything, and so this is not 19 is the end of this arc. Is that what it is? Or
Yeah.
okay, and then there is another arc that is starting with volume 20.
Yeah, 60 years later is when the next arc starts.
Yeah, I'm not interested.
Me either. Me either. I will say that the I do think that volume 19 is at least it's like, okay, you know what? That was a resolution. I got some answers that I've been begging for so
Really?
yes, yes, we do get some
Oh, I
actual
should read it.
answers.
I should read it.
Or I could just summarize it for you after we end this call.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do. We do finally get some answers. And I came away saying, "Okay, I got my ending. I can say I can close the book. I can say done, and we can move on." But I do think that the end of era 1 was the that was where I would choose to have ended the series.
Yeah, yeah, I feel the same way. If I'm recommending this series to anyone, I'm gonna say I highly recommend you just stop with Renril. And I feel the most positive about the series as a whole if you stop there. Just because the storytelling is so, there were signs of it in the first part, but
Yeah.
not enough where I felt like it was that disruptive. But when we
Yeah.
got to the second part, it was just it was like swimming against a river, to So, and there was so much that I loved, really, especially in the very beginning, the first couple of volumes. I thought, oh, this is going to be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
There were some themes there that I thought were going to be really interesting, and it was a different take on these themes, I thought, too, with an interesting vehicle for exploring them in Fushi.
Yeah.
The idea of immortality and what makes life precious, and all this stuff, and it was there in glimpses, especially in the first part, but it got lost in the chaos and the middle school drama of the second arc. So
Yeah, and I think some of that middle school drama was like it could have been good, but with how much was just kind of mentioned and then left surface level, I'm bummed that we spent the amount of time on the middle school drama as we did.
yeah, I could have done without it myself, but and then there was the whole shock of volume 15, which
Right.
was not a helping factor at all for
Right.
my
For
enjoyment
either one of us.
of
Yeah.
the series. But I'm
Yeah.
super glad that our viewers explained the context, at least. I still think it's very poorly executed, though.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I'm grateful to know a little bit more, but my opinion on it doesn't really change as far as how I feel it was handled.
Yeah, yeah. So
That said, I mean, I know that you don't enjoy going negative. I don't enjoy going negative. So it's kind of a bumsky that, we've had to spend several weeks talking about something that we just haven't enjoyed.
yeah,
But I am really, really happy that we're ending on a high note, being able to talk about the highlights of the series with our
yeah,
friend.
yeah.
So the live stream should be a lot of fun. Also, though, do you want to let them know what our next story is and when we're going to get
Yes,
started on it?
yes. Let's do it. Okay.
Probably should have done that at the beginning of the chat. Whoops.
Probably when more people were listening, but oh well. So everyone, we are doing. I'll let you do the announcement. Our next manga is.
What? No, it's your turn to decide. You get to make the
Oh,
announcement.
I'm deciding. Descending Stories. Dun, dun,
Ah.
dun. I
So it's
think I.
another abstract one. It's another one that doesn't have a big following, but it's one that we think that we are gonna really, really like. And
Yeah.
since we started off so high and then we kind of came down on our last couple, so we're excited to get to one that seems like our kind of niche.
Yes. Now I do want to ask you, do you like this To Your Eternity? I'm forcing you to rank them. Just Monster and To Your Eternity. Which one do you which one do you like, or which one do you like better? We'll keep it
The
positive.
monster fandom already hates me. Don't make me do that.
Oh,
Let's see. What would if it were era 1, To Your Eternity would rank higher than Monster for me, but with era 2 as well, it's definitely Monster. Monster did a lot more for me
okay.
than this one did, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, this was depending on how I want to frame it, it's either last place or my fourth favorite manga. Yeah.
What about if it were just era 1? Would it still be last place for you?
It would actually.
Yeah.
I will admit that. I think I liked Monster a little more than you did.
Mhm.
I didn't love it the way I loved Vagabond and Vinland Saga, though.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping that Descending Stories will be another one that I just love. So
I
we'll
hope
see.
so too. It's a shorter one anyway, and I'm pretty sure it's completed. So even if we don't love it, we should be able to get through it quickly, and then maybe we'll try one of the battle manga that y'all are are pushing on us so much.
Yeah, and we won't bring up Monster when Alan is with us because he likes Monster a lot.
Oh my goodness. I think it's one of Alan's favorites.
Yeah, Jimmy and
Yeah.
Alan both. Yeah, so
Yeah, he ranted at me because he was like, I said, yeah, we didn't love it as much as the other ones, and he was like, that's because I wasn't with you. If I was with you, I would have made you love it.
I doubt that very much.
We might have a little monster side tangent on our live stream
It
where
would be it
Alan,
would be fun for him to try, though,
yeah,
wouldn't
he could tell us how wrong we are.
it? Yeah, no doubt. All right. Well, thank you for this, Merphy. I do appreciate you reading this along with me and making it better for me.
Oh, you as well. You as well. This was the discussions are what made
Yeah.
me keep reading,
Yep.
actually.
Yep, same here. We do get a lot more out of it. And I'm a little sad that neither one of us really loved this series overall, but I do think it has its virtues. And I would recommend the first arc to people, if because of its exploration of those themes, which I think does well. And there are a couple moments that I got choked up at, early on too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely was. I'm glad we read it. So
Me too. We had some really good discussions out of it, even if we were more negative than you and I are comfortable with being online. It's still, I think we had some really good discussions out of it.
yep. And also thank you to the viewers and commenters who've been so supportive and helping us to understand this one and make it a little more tolerable, I think. So yeah. All right, so don't forget the live stream on the 15th it's going to be on Merphy Napier manga. And that's going to be a ton of fun. So
Yes.
we'll
And
see.
Descending Stories starts in January.
January, yes. Descending Stories in January, everyone. So be there or be square. All right. Until next time.